So, Ukraine hit hard last night, and it's following the general pattern that it has, where Ukraine is hitting some kind of military infrastructure, logistics, that sort of thing. And Russia, when they do hit something, are hitting maybe a hotel or something along those lines. But if their point is just destruction, then this makes a lot of sense. All right, let's look at what just happened. General Staff confirmed it carried out successful strikes on Russian targets. Targets that were struck included the Razan and Novokubaishevsk oil refineries, the Anna oil products base in Voronezh region, and Electropribor plant in Penza, which produces secure telecoms and military electronics. So they're going after just military targets, Shahed drone airfield, storage launch sites for strike drones used in attacks, an enterprise which creates military hardware for aviation and armored vehicles and space industry. All those kinds of things are what Ukraine is going after and trying to hit. Okay, just a quick recap. Oil refineries in Razan, radar base hit in Fedosia, Primorsko-Tarask airfield, Electropribor military plant, rail logistics infrastructure, and you have a nice map put out here showing what was hit where exactly. And this fireball is what you saw on the thumbnail. Okay, the largest drone attacks of the war hit multiple Russian regions, or one of the largest, damaging the defense industry, igniting oil refineries, prompting air raid alerts across the country, that is, across Russia. And this is another image of what was hit at that oil refinery. This is a pretty significant blow. It's 900 kilometers from the front lines. Ukrainian drones struck Novokubrobrishsk. I said it right the first time. Novokubishevsk oil refinery in Russia's Samara Oblast overnight on 2nd of August, causing major fires. The refinery supplies fuel for Russian military operations. There's also a traction power substation on the railway in Russia's Rostov region that was reportedly attacked. You see fires from firms' data. You can see it from satellites. It's not nothing. Ukrainian drones hit major defense plants in Penza overnight and early morning, targeting Electropribor and radio plant factories. We need more names like radio plant. I can do that one. Local officials confirmed at least one site was hit and even cut mobile internet after the attack. Firms' data also picked up fires near the military airfield of Primorsko-Tarask Krasnodar region overnight. This was frequently used by Russia to launch Shahed drones toward Ukraine. What caused the fire remains unclear. I'm pretty sure it was Ukrainian drones, but that's okay. That's a fair caveat. There's a large fire at this airfield. The airfield is well known for a launch of Shaheds. Place has been monitoring closely for the last few months. The airfield is surrounded with a lot of Russia's best air defense equipment. So that it was hit with all the air defense equipment is really interesting. AASM hammer strike on a Russian target in Bryansk region. That building seems to have seen better days. I'm happy to report, says one of the intelligence sites that I see a lot, and it's a very reliable site. Happy to report that Ukrainian strikes are moving faster than our team's geolocation and analysis can keep up with. How about that? You don't hear that every day, but that's good to hear. Okay, let's look at what was going on with the Russians striking back. The Russians only sent 53 drones overnight, and it was also in the double digits last night. It was like 60 something, if I recall correct. I can't remember exactly. It's starting to blend together. But when there's a couple days of low, it usually ramps up much higher than the norm, which is about 150 as an average. Overnight, Russian forces launched 53 aerial attack drones against Ukraine from multiple directions. Air defense units shot down or suppressed 45 of the 53. So okay, that's reasonable. The drones are getting a little bit better. I mean, and when I say better, I mean better from the Russian perspective. They're getting a little bit more effective, and their tactics are changing. But 53 is just to harass so that something's happening, and then you'd have 60 one day, 53 another, and then you'll have 300 a following day. All right, let's look at this. A few minutes ago in the city of Druzhvika, Donetsk region, Russians struck a market. At a time, it was crowded with people. This is what Russia does day over day. And not to be outdone, they struck the Slovyansk hotel. This building is seriously damaged, and at least one person has been reported injured. Now, this is part of a broader strategy, I believe, and it's not just to cause Ukrainians to rise up. I'm recalculating. I think that 2 or 3 days ago, I said, I think this is just they just want to destroy Ukraine. They just want to wipe out Ukraine, Ukrainians, Ukrainian culture, anything Ukrainian. So they're actually in their warped way of thinking about it. This is a good thing that they've done this, because this is continuing to wipe away Ukraine, and that's intentional. Okay, on the battlefield. 1,010 Russians off the battlefield, no tanks, one armored fighting vehicle, 38 artillery systems, 130 vehicles and fuel tanks. One of the questions that keeps coming up is, where are the tanks? What happened? Are they just out of them? No, they're not out of them. They're refurbishing. So are they using it in a sense of saving up for a rainy day for a big attack? I don't know. Tanks are hard to get through drone lines. And so I don't know if it's that, or if they're, saving it up for the big Belarus exercises, or just what, but something's weird with the lack of tanks being hit. Okay. Engagements are up above the 7-day average, as are casualties. Artillery losses also remain high. Here is the losses that Andrew Perpetua could identify. They were a little better or a little worse than 1-to-1. Russians lost a little less than, Russians lost a little more than the Ukrainians. So it was a little bit better for the Ukrainians, a little worse for the Russians. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Russian invaders conducted 48 assaults. We got to keep our eyes on Pokrovsk, folks. Pokrovsk is in really bad shape. Here's the intelligence update from the British. Russian ground forces are intensifying attempts to envelop Pokrovsk, the key Ukrainian logistics hub, which supports operations in Donbass. In the last week, Russian ground forces have made incremental gains into the northeast of Pokrovsk, seeking to circumvent and cut off logistics routes and ground lines of communication. Russian ground forces have advanced in the west in the vicinity of the H-32 highway, notably toward the village of Radnitsky, through which Pokrovsk's main northern supply route. Russian forces have also gained a territory at the south of the highway, advancing in the vicinity of Mirolobukavika. The source reports on 22 July 2025 suggested Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups had attempted to infiltrate into southern Pokrovsk, with Ukrainian forces subsequently conducting clearance operations. So they were in there. They have gotten into there. There's no question about that. And it's bad. The Russians keep pushing from different angles, and yeah, it's bad. Okay, the Battle of Pokrovsk, according to Marko Mikkelsen, he is a chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee of Estonian Parliament. It's the most crucial for the defense of Ukraine and Europe. Right now, this is the place that the Russians want the most. Now, I'm going to show you something, and it's a little discouraging. The defense of Pokrovsk, this is a pro-Russian site, followed by Spetsnaz and Scott Ritter and Margarita Simonyan and folks like that. The defense of Pokrovsk is cracking at the seams. Now, I'm only showing you this because I just saw another image from a trusted source that shows this same salient. A salient is this spear-like something that's going into the map. You see on the lower left-hand side here, the salient. Because I saw it from another trusted source, I'm showing it to you. Here's Pokrovsk, and the Russians seem to have made some kind of beachhead. Now, will they get pushed out? Maybe, probably even. They'll get pushed back out, but they're going to keep coming at it. And like, if this isn't the last time, there will be another time. So I'm showing you that for a reason. This is Pokrovsk city center. It's just being destroyed, and I'm telling you, like, it's just bad in Pokrovsk. Now, if Pokrovsk falls, it's bad. It's not a good thing. It's a tactical defeat. It's not a strategic defeat. The war is not over. But I was talking about Pokrovsk, like, uh-oh, I'm worried about this. Talking to Craig Terry this time last year, saying, how fast can General Winter get here to bail him out, right? I mean, to slow things down, the muddy season or that sort of thing. And that was a year ago. So I was worried about it this time last year. I'm a little calmer now because I was worried about it this time last year. But I mean, given if the Russians just keep at it, given enough time, it'll fall, right? I mean, it's just one of those things. Okay. As bad as the situation with water supplies for civilians in the Donbass, I highlighted that yesterday or the day before. It's worse for the Russian army. Here's a video shared by Russian war blogger, shows Russian soldiers drinking from muddy ponds, which seems like a pretty bad idea for dysentery and other kinds of problems like that. But I mean, you got to get water from somewhere, right? And there's that. There's also and that's in Donbass, so it's only affecting the Russian soldiers and the population within Donbass. It's not affecting the other side. I was reading this morning that AIDS has gone up like 2,000% in the Russian army since the war began here at what's on the battlefield, I guess. And I'm not sure if that's across the board or just in the battlefield, but like bad things doesn't mean they're not pushing it across. They are. Here's a Russians continue to deal with overdosing. They have drug problems. But that doesn't mean that they don't have a lot of people still pushing on Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukraine is redirecting $192 million to drone units. 6 Ukrainian drone units that destroyed 22,700 Russian targets. In July, will receive over 190 million in emergency funding. So when you're using drones, it's a force multiplier that is wreaking havoc on the enemy. And so 80% of equipment and losses are drone related. It doesn't mean you don't need infantry. You have to have infantry. You have to have artillery. You have to have all these things. But drones are just outside punching above their weight. Okay, Andrew Perpetua said this: Russians are making a huge attempt to claim that Ukrainians are killing civilians. They realize that they've crossed the line and they'll suffer actual consequences for it. Now they're trying to muddy the waters by claiming that Ukraine does the same thing. It's genuinely pathetic. And that's exactly what Russian propaganda does in my observation. Watching this over the past 3.5 years, they'll say, you're doing the very thing that they're doing. All right, last little bit, I'll leave you with this bit of wisdom. Every machine is a smoke machine if you operate it wrong enough. All right, just let it sink in. Thank you, my friends, for the time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes. Put your comments below. I try to read as much as I can. Thank you for all of that, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.